Yo, we got Rox D. Xebec and his crew all over this chapter. I can't get enough of it, by the way. Him breaking into Marijoa, taking out the Admiral, his iconic confrontation with Emu. We see more of his insane power at work, and Harold impressed me too, leading me to believe that Loki is even stronger than we thought, and more happens in this absolutely insane chapter. Rox D. Xebec has to be one of my favorite characters of all time, and this chapter is going to help you understand why, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Channel Pirate King Within, or should I say in this case, the King of the World Within, and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama if you haven't already by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. This chapter is called The Rocks Pirates, so there is no mistake that Oda is gonna make it hype. So we start off where we left off last time with the face-to-face confrontation of Loki, who had hit rock bottom, and the rising star of Rox D. Xebec, one of, if not the most hype characters in all of One Piece. After all of this, we're only gonna be even more curious and desperate to find out what exactly happened on that day at God Valley. Loki explains that this is Elbaf, but his pops isn't there since he's on a voyage, as usual. Loki, for his part, though, completely underestimates and undermines Rox and his crew, saying, "You're all just puny humans." This is the first I've ever seen one moving around for real, while the pirates just realize that this is Harold's son when he referred to him as Pops. Rox says, "I'm guessing he can still be reached even if he's away, right? What's your name?" Once Loki gives him his name, Rox says, "Alright Loki, just do what I tell you. Head on home and get someone to send urgent word to your pops. Tell him to say Loki has been seriously hurt, you've got to return to Elbaf at once." Loki freaks out saying, "Watch your mouth. Do I look like I take orders from a human?" He has no idea how strong these quote-unquote humans actually are. He continues saying, "You seriously expect my father to drop everything just cause I'm hurt? Yeah, right. Someone as weak looking as you has no right to boss me around." Now, he really asked for it, and here Rox shows his insane powers. Then Oda hypes up Rox through the narrator. The narrator says, "Rox's swordsmanship was renowned for its brutal impact akin to a giant hammer or a cannon fire. It was said to blow everything in the surrounding vicinity away," and we'll see an example of that and how insane that vicinity was in this chapter later on. That is very hype in and of itself, but it's especially interesting that he joins people like Zoro, Mihawk, and even Shanks in the swordsman category. He attacks Loki, who is clearly in a lot of pain while taking the impact. But one thing is for sure, he definitely proved Loki wrong about being weak. This is at least one of the strongest characters in the world of One Piece. After wrecking Kid Loki, Rox laughs, saying, "Whoa-ha-ha-ha-ha," that's his unique laugh. There we have it. Loki has been seriously hurt. Harold's path crossed with this madman once before, we're told. Then we get a flashback within a flashback as we jump to Marijoa, where Rox met Harold. It happened during the Reverie that year. People are saying someone attacked and kidnapped 5 of the kings. Unbelievable. That man in black has to be the culprit. We then jump to Emu's flower room, which is how far Rox made it, and he seems to be alone, which is even crazier. Emu says the lives of those sovereigns cannot be used to extort Emu, aka Mu. And Rox, looking awesome with his pistol, says, "No kidding, but it threw the Holy Land into total chaos, didn't it?" I love how Rox is such a hilarious shit disturber here. The narrator lets us know that this incident would be the first and last of its kind. The man claimed to be a Davy Jonesian pirate. Have no idea what he means by that, but my curiosity is piqued. He knew there was nothing more he could do in that moment, so he withdrew with these words. And man, are they some epic words. He said, looking determined AF, "Just wait, one day I'll be back." So we now know for certain that Blackbeard is his son, so in a way perhaps he's coming back through Blackbeard, who inherited his father's will. But we also know about Blackbeard's different personalities, so it could be that Rox is literally within Blackbeard and it's not just symbolic. I don't know exactly how that would work, but we've seen crazier things in One Piece. Either way, I'm sure Rox will in some way come back as promised, and let's just appreciate how all of these different relationships reshape events from the past. Like, how crazy is it that Blackbeard took out Ace, whose father Roger finally stopped his father Rox? The more we go on, the more it seems like everything is connected in the best way, and it makes you want to reread the whole show again. Anyways, narrator continues, "Naturally, this Rox incident would never be brought to light. Ironically, on that very day, there was another intruder in the Holy Land. The narrator, of course, is referring to King Harold, and the celestial dragons are freaking out over him. One says, "Look, it's so much bigger than a normal giant." Another says, "I want it as a slave." Another says, "No, we should kill it and have it stuffed." Shows how crazy celestial dragons were even then and what Harold has to deal with in his non-violent pursuits. Honestly, they make it easier to understand Rox and his own philosophy, as we'll see in a bit. The guards rush in to protect the nobles while Harold is running and on fire. It's a hilarious panel where he screams, "Hot, hot, 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 hot." I'm sorry, the negotiations went south, and I know trespassing is a crime, but isn't all this going a bit too far? Someone says, "Don't let the king napper get away." Props for that term, king napper, that's a good one. Harold swears that the king napping wasn't him, and he's telling the truth because it was Rox. Furthermore, they scream, "An admiral was murdered. The culprit ran towards the castle. Proceed with caution." It's just one thing after another, a celestial says. "Seize that big one," another says. Harold sees Rox running in his direction and thinks to himself, "That must be the guy who kidnapped the kings. How dare he use me as a scapegoat? I'll show him." Whereas Rox sees Harold and thinks, "A giant in the Holy Land? Don't your kind lurk in the boonies?" We then get quite possibly my favorite panel in the entire chapter, although we get a lot of good ones. Harold with his ancient giant form and giant sword swings at Rox, who is insect-sized by comparison. But Rox takes the attack with his own sword, and despite the size difference, the massive colossal size difference, both hold their ground. The narrator says the clash between the two strangers blew away everyone within, get this, a 5-kilometer radius. Crazy. And you know what's funny? To me, this makes Harold look good because Rox has been hyped up so much, and not vice versa, which is probably what most people would think when they saw a small guy hold his own against such a big giant. So to me, it hypes up Loki's potential more than ever, and I want him to become a Straw Hat and join Luffy more than ever too. Rox seems impressed by Harold as he laughs and asks the Giant King for his name. Harold laughs and gives it. Of course, all the while, we see the Black Conqueror hockey shockwaves. These guys have that king energy after all. Rox then says, as if helping Harold out, "I'm Rox. Angle your next strike toward the town, they'll enslave you if you get caught." Harold, the naive one, says, "Huh? Why?" Rox tells him not to ask questions. Next thing you know, Rox is riding on Harold's shoulder. Rox is kind enough to point him in the direction of the new world. He laughs and says, "If you survive this, let's meet again, Harold." Then he hilariously jumps off the edge while Harold is saying, "Don't be ridiculous, as if I'd ever associate with a criminal like you. What the? Are you seriously just gonna jump off the edge?" And even though Harold is being the quote-unquote good guy here, one can't help but see Rox's point of view too. I mean, Harold is trying to be so good even while these people are trying to turn him into a slave or a doll, and definitely would do it if they got the chance. The narrator continues on saying, Rox had taken down a Navy admiral just moments earlier. Despite all the efforts to save him, the admiral did not survive. It was deemed the most grievous of sins. In the blink of an eye, Rox's infamy boomed. The event sent a powerful shockwave throughout the seas. And here is the worst thing. Oda teases us with the bounty, he shows us the bounty, and he knows we are dying to know what this legendary and notorious pirate's bounty number was, but he covers up the number. Why, Oda? Why? Why do you do this to us? We better get this number revealed before we finish with the rock stuff in this section of the arc, because I desperately want to know, and why tease us if you're not going to give it to us. We're told sometime later a ship carrying a great amount of celestial tribute to Marijoa was attacked. The gates of justice were destroyed, and the attacker fled the scene. The stolen funds were later used to support Rox's pirate activities. This guy must have been such a thorn in the world government's side, like no other. The narrator says, until that point, Rox had always acted against the world government, but after that, he started to target pirates too, as he's shown with bounties in his hands. The narrator continues saying, in the world of pirates, there exists a long-standing tradition known as a Davy back fight. Pirate crews would compete in a series of matches wagering their flags or even their crewmates in a truly ruthless game. Rox was so good that he kept winning, and he used this tradition to build his entire crew, taking the best members from each crew, it's implied. We see at this point Shiki and Whitebeard were with Rox as he's telling them about another amazing guy, presumably Harold. Rox says you'll lose it when you see him. After that, we catch up to them finally spotting Elbaf. We jump forward and now Harold is saying he's rushed home as fast as he could. He's talking to Loki and he says, "I'm glad you've already turned the corner on your recovery, thank goodness." And that definitely speaks well of Loki, that he not only survived Rox's attack, but he also turned the corner so quickly. Now, I'm sure Rox didn't want to actually hurt him a lot, or end him, but it's still impressive. Harold smiles kindly at Loki, saying, "I know you're strong, Loki, but you shouldn't wander into the realm of the dead. You got lucky escaping with nothing more than that after falling off that cliff. There's plenty of dangers just lurking deeper inside." So, if you guys are wondering why it seems like Harold is not freaking out at Xebec for doing this, I don't think he actually knows that Xebec did this or attacked his son. Loki is confused. He thinks to himself, Dad really came back. It has to be a coincidence. He couldn't have come for me. So man, his mother really did a number of him, evidently, and he can't even believe that his own dad would be concerned about him, even though he clearly is, even if he's not always present. Harold says, "Rox, I've heard all about your crimes. What are you doing here?" Rox responds in a hilarious way, saying, "I missed ya, Harold." What an amazing character. Rox says, "You gotta join my crew. The world government won't hear you out, right? You get it now. The time has come." Harold says, "Don't be stupid. If I anchor myself with a thug like you, I'll lose all the goodwill I've built up with my allies. So it's cool to see that Luffy will probably succeed where Rox failed by getting the modern day Harold, aka Loki, to join his crew." We see Rox's current crew feasting and drinking as they're about to be introduced, and later we'll find out they're actually on a table, which is hilarious, but more on that in a bit. Rox responds to Harold's concern by saying, "What of it? Aren't those allies government pawns? What's the point of reaching for something that's impossible? You gotta level the playing field. Don't be a wet blanket, Harold. Elbaf has the greatest warriors in the world. If something churns your stomach, you should just crush it." As you could guess, this philosophy definitely appeals more to Loki than to Harold. Harold responds in a heated way, saying that's the old way. Elbaf has changed. Xebec, standing on the table, looking smaller than Harold's head even, argues, saying people never change. That same bloodlust is still pulsing through you. On a side note, I wonder if that bloodlust is what Emu channels to demonize people. But anyways, Whitebeard says, "Hey, can't you two just enjoy the meal?" Harold adds, "You guys should know that if you follow a man like him, you'll only be led to ruin." Then, as each member is introduced, they share their take on their Captain Xebec. Shiki the Wicked, aka Future Golden Lion, laughs and says, "Following that moron? Don't make me laugh. We're all completely out for ourselves. None of us would bat an eye if Rox died." Miss Buchan, the tech bandit aka Buckingham Stussy, looking very good and like she might have had a child with Whitebeard after all, says, "Well, that's not to say his plans don't have a certain appeal. They could prove very lucrative." So sounds like a money-loving Nami right there. Don Marlon, aka the gangster from the West Blue, says, "Have you heard of Hachinosu, the place they call the Isle of Exiles? Or even Pirate Island. Countries all around the world send their worst inmates there as a form of penal exile." Whitebeard, smiling, says, "It was meant to be a barren island with no food where all you could do was wait for death." Pirate Prophet Ochoku, aka Future Commodore of Pirate Island, says, "But last year the survivors started banding together, and why do you think that happened?" Ganzui, the smuggler, adds, "Believe it or not, the island had a massive gold deposit. A shadow organization found out and got involved. They helped the criminals amass a fortune. That really pissed off the government." Then Rox takes over, saying, "These days, anyone who gets near the island gets swarmed by the hardened criminals. They'll strip you of everything. So then we cut a deal with the government. I asked how much you're going to pay us if we take that island back for you guys. Once we get the money, we'll take down Pirate Island and split the mountain load of loot between us. But there's no way in hell we're just handing over the island and those criminals after that. Get it?" As you can see, Rox, just like Blackbeard, was a skilled strategist. He didn't just use brute strength, even though he had strength, but combined it with brains. He says, "I'll take charge of Hachinosu, and with these dumbasses under me, we'll turn it into a pirate paradise. I can already see the government and Marines standing there like clueless dogs." Rox says, "This is just a prologue to my life. Using that island as my base, I'll crush the Navy, bring the Holy Land crashing down, and after that, I'm gonna be king of the world." Not surprisingly, Loki overhears this and is in awe of this kind of talk. Harold says, "Your enemies are too big. You're picking a fight with the whole planet." Gotta hand it to Rox though, he's a dreamer. And he says, "Say what you want. One day someone's bound to pull it off. There's no such thing as a power that lasts forever." Very true, by the way. Just look at the great powers over the years, like the Roman Empire even. They all fell eventually, or at least lost the dominant hold they once had. In an epic close-up of Rox, he offers his hand and says, "Join me, Harold. If we team up, we will be unstoppable." So he was trying to get the giants like the world government is trying to do right now, but the difference is he was trying to do it in a nice way by teaming up while the world government is kidnapping the kids. You can totally get why people like Loki like Rox, and honestly, from what we've seen so far, I think he's a great character and definitely better than the world government. Harold says, "Quit inviting me. I told you I'm the king." Rox won't take no for an answer and says, "That doesn't matter. I'm going to claim it, the whole damn world." So ambitious right there, and I love it. The narrator says Loki suddenly realized he had found salvation. The narrator continues, saying 4 years passed. Harold continued rejecting the numerous invitations he received until one day Rox's plan had finally reached its fruition. Backed by his monstrous crew, he would send shockwaves throughout the world. "Set sail, you bastards," he says as we see the Rox flag blowing in the wind. The legend embarks, we're told, and man is that an epic chapter, and man is Rox an epic character. I don't know about you, but I'm more interested in this Rox stuff than in the happenings of Elbaf right now, and I welcome Oda spending as much time on him as he wants. Let me know how you like this chapter and what you're expecting to happen in the next one. I, for one, am absolutely loving One Piece right now, I must say. And if you enjoyed this one, you don't want to miss this video that YouTube says you'll like on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more One Piece, and I'll see you in the next one.